Last week we started a series called Love, Sex, and Dating. And we said that the foundation for the series was this. We want you to get it right the first time. We don't want the word divorce to be part of your vocabulary. Maybe murder, but not divorce. We don't want you to have to go through the pain of having to have to go to divorce. We don't want your future kids, your future son, your future daughter, because most of you guys are going to. I know some of you guys are like, no, I'm never going to be a dad or mom. That's fine. But the majority of us want to be a dad or a mom. I don't want them to go through what a lot of us have had to go through. I want you to have a relationship that is fruitful, that is everything you dream about, that is everything you read about. So we started by saying that even though that's the purpose, we have been using this phrase. And last week we talked about this one sentence. And it is the sentence that we're going to be using for the whole series. And that sentence was, are you who the person you're looking for is looking for? We said, are you the person that you want to marry is going to want to marry? We talked about this myth, right? We talked about a myth that most of us think, well, if I just find the right person, everything is going to be okay. If I just find Mr. Right, if I just find Mrs. Right, everything is going to be okay because they're going to be perfect. But here's what happened. Two people who are looking for Mr. or Mrs. Right meet each other, and none of them are Mr. or Mrs. Right. And you know what happens? They begin to fight. They begin to argue. They begin to have problems. And then we begin to think, and we begin to confuse chemistry with love. And chemistry is very easy to have. In fact, I want to prove to you how easy it is to have chemistry. Check this out.
Yeah, baby. Yeah, baby. Come on, say go.
Okay, now, all the girls, their heart just melted. Right? Okay, come on, let's be honest. All the girls are like, and all the guys were like, yeah. John knows what's up. Now, here's the thing. Now, that's very easy. That's very easy. You do that, and you'll sweep any girl out of their feet. Well, most girls, okay? Now, here's the thing. That's fine. But the problem, the challenge is, what about when there's no romantic music? What about when we disagree on something? What about when we're both tired and stressed and we can't, I mean, even though we love each other, we just can't stand each other. What about then? And I'll tell you what, when you get married or if you've been dating, you're going to realize that there's more time when you're not romantic than when you are romantic. I mean, let me ask you this question. When was the last time you saw your parents who are married be romantic? Now, when was the last time you saw them fight? Oh, every day. We were coming to church and they were arguing about them. You know? Now listen. I do that because I know I can get your attention, but I want you to get what I'm trying to tell you. Chemistry is not all of it. In fact, chemistry is what gets you started. It's what causes you to fall in love. But it is becoming the right person that keeps you in love. It is becoming the right person that keeps you in love. And guys, listen. We're going to struggle with romance. You want me to tell you something? And I have Regal, Manny, and I don't know who else is married in here, to testify on my behalf, okay? When you're dating, it's super easy to be romantic. Super easy. But you know when it's really hard? When you come home and there's no food, or she hasn't done what you asked her to do, when there's more money that needs to be spent than what you're earning, you know, when reality hits, it's really hard to be romantic. And I want you to know, romance, it's important in a marriage, in a relationship. But more important than that, it's the attitude, the character, your personality. Because you want to know something, guys? For those of you that feel ugly, okay? It is not your looks that keeps a girl. It is your character that keeps her. Okay? Girls, you guys fall in love for the handsome looking guy that's a jerk. Okay? And all these guys, listen, and girls don't get it, guys. I promise you this. Right now, girls are interested in the hot-looking guy. That's fine. But guys, I'll tell you this. When you're getting ready to settle down, girls are looking for a guy that's got an awesome character. Okay? It's funny. I don't know if my wife is going to give me permission to say this, but yesterday we went to a marriage seminar, and they had us number the needs. And like the needs, she had to number her needs, and she had to try to guess my needs, you know? And in those needs, there were like communication, understanding, you know, sex, stuff like that. And one of them were the physical appearance of your partner. You know what number she put for that? 9. And at first I saw it and I was like, man, well, she's got no choice, right? She married this goblin, so. But I began to think. I said, no. Because I wouldn't want to have a gorgeous wife. No. He's never let me finish. I wouldn't want to have a gorgeous wife that's a witch on the inside. I told her yesterday, you know, I think I married out of my need. And I think she's a beautiful woman. I think she could have done way better than me, and I think she's gorgeous. But I want you to understand. That right now, even though you're interested in what he drives and the way he dresses, listen, what's gonna matter is, are you the right person? Are you who you're looking for? It's looking for. Now, guys, I want to talk to you today about the Gentlemen's Club. And most of the guys, when you think about the Gentlemen's Club, you think about this. Go to the next slide, guys. Society has told us that these are the Gentlemen's Clubs. You think of a gentleman, and you think of a pimp. You think of a guy who can get girls. You think of a guy who has girls lined up. And today, guys, I want to let you know that being a true gentleman is far from this. That being a true gentleman has nothing to do with this. In fact, I hate it. I despise the fact that you see Gentlemen's Club, and what do you see at the bottom? Girls, girls, girls. You know where I think those signs of Gentlemen Club should be at? At our church. I think gentlemen should want to congregate, should want to attend church. Because according to the Bible and according to the dictionary, a gentleman is not those things. And today, I want to talk to you about the childhood ways of men. I want to help you guys, and please don't feel offended by this. I want to help you to become men. Because a lot of you guys are still kids. A lot of you guys are still babies. And just because you can get a girl, and maybe you've had sex, and maybe girls like you, but deep down inside of you, you're still a boy, you're still a child. And today, I want to use the Bible as a reference, as an encouragement for us to aspire to become men. I want us to understand what it means to be a real man. Now, listen, I want us to know what a biblical view of women, okay? And guys, look at me. I want to talk to you in regards to women, but not just to the women that you're attracted to, not just to the women that you like, not just the women that you find attractive or sexy. I want to talk to you how to have a view of every woman those that you deal with every day, those that you live with, those that you sit next to, those that you don't like so much. I want you to become a true gentleman. And what we've done today, we've actually invited 3 gentlemen from our church to come, and I want you to know what it looks like to be a true gentleman. Are we ready for that? I can't see that.
Yeah, we are.
One more. Okay, well, let's give the 2 we have.
He's here.
Come up here. Oh, okay, he's here. Okay. So, I want you to know, and I want you to meet 3 gentlemen. By the way, we've been doing this for the last week, and we're going to be doing through all this week. We're going to be talking about different topics, right? Last week we talked about love, and we presented you guys 3 couples that are in love. So today, we're going to be talking about what it means to be a gentleman. And I want you to meet 3 individuals that come to our church that are gentlemen. And when I talk to you about what I'm going to talk to you about in just a minute, you can see it in their life. You can see it in their behavior. So, Tepe, all yours.
It's not. Okay, yes. Gentlemen,
Hey.
how are you doing? Nice to meet you. Doing good? Once again. Okay, you guys, I just want to let you guys know, give you a little info. We've been talking about love, sex, and dating. You guys heard Nestor talk about it. And last week, like he said, we had couples over talking about that. And I just want to quickly give you guys a definition of what gentleman has in the dictionary. It says it's a civilized, educated, sensitive, and well-mannered man. Now, because last week we talked about couples and love, again, this time we're talking about gentlemen. And gentlemen, if you could please introduce yourselves.
My name is Francisco Pelosser.
Francisco, nice to meet you.
I'm Byron Tovar.
For those of you that don't know, my name is Valente Jimenez, but everybody knows me as Tito. So.
Thank you so much for coming, gentlemen. We really appreciate it.
By the way, they call me Daddy.
All you gentlemen can call him daddy if you want.
I don't.
Yeah, I'm not going to. Anyway, I have a few questions for you here. And first one is, what view do you have of women?
Well, what I was taught is that women are delicate. They're supposed to be treated as such. And we're not supposed to hit them. Actually, my grandfather used to say, you're not to touch, you're not supposed to even hit them with a petal of a rose. That's the view I have. And he wasn't a Christian, so that's says a lot about it.
Culture says a lot.
Yeah.
Brother Byron?
Wow, this is tough one. Because I have to tell you briefly, one day when I was a teenager, I had 2 pictures on my shirt, and my mom happened to take the clothing from my room to the laundry. And these were half-naked women. She called me to her room, and she said, how do you like this? And my mom went all the way. She went the 9 yards. She started unbuttoning her shirt, her blouse, and she said, do you know why women have breasts? Because with this, I fed you. And you were little. That changed my perspective. When I think of a woman, I think of a mother, I think of a daughter, I think of a respectful person that can be more than just a symbol for a man's name. That's what I think of.
Brother Valente?
How do I follow up that? Yeah, it's a powerful story. My view of women is simply, basically the women that I've had in my life. And it began with my mother. And when I was a kid, probably all of you, or many of you boys, said this to your mother at one point in time, Mom, I want to marry you when I get older. I know it sounds kind of weird now, I'm old and gray, but when I was little, I would say, Mommy, I just want to marry you. Because that's the picture I had of a woman. And that's, I think, what reflected in my heart and how I went to choose my wife in that sense.
Oh yeah, I was just going to let you guys know. That was actually my second question, is how did you get the view and that how did that shape your life? But you guys all actually answered the question, so that was very, very good. Next question. After so many years, looking at it from a Christian perspective, and I know this is a hard one sometimes, what do you do to stay in love with your wife? Thinking about time, thinking about how you guys treat each other at home, and how Brother Nestor was talking, and how you guys argue.
Hey, you just put me in their category, man.
How do you, or what do you guys do to stay in love with your wife? I didn't know it was that hard.
No, I'm just kidding. Well, I know it sounds kind of like cliche that you have to renew your vows and you have to do it over and over, but like us, if you look at it as, it's going to be like a dumb comparison, but if you look at it like when you have a car, your first car, you're not going to go 1 week without washing it. And if it's stock, you're going to buy new rims, you're going to buy new tires. If it's got a stereo, you're going to pump it up and you're going to put a boom box on it. And every time you ride it, you're not going to wear your worst clothes. You're going to dress accordingly because you want to look nice on a nice car. That's kind of like your marriage. You have to, equip it. You have to do things that even though sometimes you don't want to do them, but it's a decision. It's a decision you make, and it's a commitment, and you have to work at it. And it's not easy. Sometimes it's not easy because our ego gets in the way. Sometimes the other person, you have to deal with their issues. But
so can you give us an example of how, or what you do nowadays with your
things that I do.
To stay in love with your wife?
Sometimes I'll just stop and buy flowers for her for no reason. It doesn't have to be a specific day. Just because it's Wednesday. Just because it's... And so, things like that. I'll take her out and take her to eat her favorite restaurant is Holy Bible, so I'll just take her. Even if it's in the middle of the week for no reason. Things that I do to keep the fire alive is I pick up my underwear just because it's Tuesday.
Only once a week?
You don't know that. We're married, but I didn't understand perfectly what I'm talking about. But honestly, this is I'm a blessed man because first of all, I'm in the middle of two men who got great marriages too. I'm a blessed man because God answered my prayer. I fell in love with my wife the day I saw her. And I never thought she was going to respond back to me. But I think I see my wife as my best friend. She's my best friend. There's nobody else before her. No one's more important. And one thing I have learned is that I have been basically the one who tried to lift her up. And if she shines, it's the best thing can happen to me. And I think she shines more than how I shine. And I feel really good about it because I saw that potential before when we didn't have Christ in our lives. Christ is the center of our relationship. And one thing we do is that we hold hands in difficult times, in times where there's no church, there's nobody around. We hold hands. We pray together. We laugh together. I make her laugh. She said that sometimes that's silly, but she says that fulfills her, and I try to make her laugh. And sometimes she texts me and says, "You made my day by doing this and everything." And I text her good words of encouragement. And then I try to be a listener, and that's tough. I try to be a listener because sometimes I have the answer, and I learned that she wants to be listened. And she has an opinion, and I value that very much. So,
Thank you.
Someone, way back when my wife and I first met, someone told us a very, very important thing. They said to us, You know, you think you're in love now when you're just getting married and just a newlywed and stuff like that. But you're going to realize something very important. That as the years go by, your love is going to grow deeper and deeper, and you're going to find yourself realizing that you are deeper in love than when you were at the very beginning. So many people have this concept that you fall in love and then you fall out of love. It doesn't have to be that way. Because I'll tell you what, it's a choice. It's a choice that we make. And how do I do it? Flowers. I do it by kind words. I do it by washing the dishes.
People want to step further.
It's going the extra mile. It's doing the whatever it takes to keep that fire alive. That's what it takes.
Thank you. And actually, this question is a little bit deeper when I think about it because of the culture that we have today and the kids. I say kids, everybody. You guys aren't kids. You guys are actually youth, but I say kids, everybody. They're kids too. How do you battle promiscuity and the culture we live in today? And also, what do you do to battle against what society says? Being promiscuous.
I'll take it first.
Oh, okay.
I'll take that. Yesterday I'll just do this. Yesterday we were in a meeting and it was a very, very interesting illustration of what you're talking about there. There's Greek mythology that talks about this island where there was, if you could picture this, there was many, many beautiful women on this island. And there were sailors that would come by that island. And there were just beautiful women, and they had this mysterious power to call the sailors towards them. Sirens. Sirens. You want to say that. But it's a story, okay? And it's my story, so it's not
You play the bass, brother.
He went to the island.
Anyways, if you can picture this, the island is surrounded by treachery. In other words, by sharks and all kinds of, anything that would get in the way. And when the sailors would come by in their ship, the sailors would actually be so drawn that they would jump into the water to try to get to the island. Well, every single one of them failed. Every single one of them failed and died. So eventually what they did is they started going, they still had to go by the island, but what they did is they started tying each other to chairs or tying each other to parts of the boat so that when the voices called them, they would not respond to that, but rather they were safe, right? Well, along came another gentleman and we're talking about gentlemen today. Along comes a gentleman in a ship and he's got all the sailors and they all tie themselves up and he doesn't tie himself up. And they're wondering, what's going on? Do you want to die? What's going on? His realization was that he knew in his mind and he knew in his heart that what he had at home was better than what was on that island. Okay? So what does that mean? That means that he did not have to be bound by anything external. It was something internal that kept him from falling into that temptation. And exactly that is what happens with us in terms of, well, how do you keep yourself from temptation and stuff like that? I'll tell you what, every single time someone, because believe it or not, we are all approached, we are all tempted in various ways. But I'll tell you, every single time the temptation comes, you cut it off. And I cut it off by saying, let me talk to my wife about this. I wonder what my wife would think about this. And some of you, they grew up in a different scenario, might think to yourself, that's a sissy way of handling that. Right? No, it's not. Because guess what, guys? That is what keeps me in control. It keeps me pure, and it keeps me righteous before God, and it keeps me committed to my wife.
How do you call that?
Yeah. Well, you know what? I'm going to follow the story right there. I was at work and I was sent to one of my best friend's boss's home in the rich area, Mahomet. And this lady guided me through the garage stairs, and she was wearing a gown. That was it. And I had to follow her. And I was a brand new Christian.
So those are
And I had a baby at home.
Those are the games.
And you know what? It was a tough call. And I started shaking. Because she was very, she was pursuing me in a way and showing me places and stuff like that. They were going to do a show, film a show in her place. And I remember that I felt very uncomfortable. This is the honest situation right here. And then I had to get out and I prayed. And when I prayed, I came back and I showed my ring. I put my hands like this. And you know what she commented? She said, "Oh, you're married." And then I pulled a picture of my wife from my wallet. Said, "And I have a beautiful kid." And my son was like 6 months old at that time. That's how I got out of that situation. It was very tough. And you know what? The honest truth is this, guys. One day, you will marry someone. And if you don't acknowledge yourself, your heart, who you are, and how weak you are in certain situations. And some of you are going through this right now. But one day, you will have marks of every relationship that you went through. And you will carry them all the way to the altar when you marry someone, when you finally marry someone. And the thing right here is that, what about if we change the coin? We flip the coin and you look at your bride and she didn't take care of that weakness. Right? You don't want to have that exchange. Every time you go and will have intimacy with your wife, you will remember those chapters in your life. And it's really hard to erase. But if you trust in what the Word of God says right there in those choices, there's plenty of examples of people who failed before God and God will restore them, but there's some other ones, like Joseph. And you heard the story, probably some of you, and you know what? He endured through that process. And I think we can take the counsel of God. And you're in the good place. The good thing that I'm speaking to an audience right now that is being equipped and prepared towards these situations. Okay? God bless you.
All right, brother. Thank you very much for that. I'm actually going to switch up the question on you just because of time. Last
I just wanted
question.
to say that Tito stole my story.
Oh, yeah, that was good. Brother, how do you remain a gentleman when your wife is not nice?
Another story?
I'll let Tito steal my story.
That's a hard question. Some of them want to take it.
You know what? I can answer that very simply, and it's not a simple thing. But you see, to me, love is not an emotion. To me, love is a commitment, and it doesn't matter what goes on in the relationship. I am committed to this relationship. So if my wife is not having a good day, it doesn't change what we have and who she is to me. From day one when I met her, I knew that she was special to me. I knew it. And even if she has a bad day, because we all have bad days, even if she has a bad day, it does not matter because it doesn't change my commitment to her.
All right, gentlemen, I want to thank you very much for your time. You guys, if we can give them one applause.
Thank you, Francisco. Thank you, Byron. Thank you for your time. So, the list. We gave you guys a list last week, and we said that love was patient, love was kind, and we saw that. Now, you know the sad thing, girls, guys? Some of you guys are dating people that do not have that list. So today, guys, I want us to look at what the Bible says about being a gentleman. And listen, Guys, you got to pay attention to this because this is going to be really good. If you have your Bibles, would you open it with me to 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 11? We've been using 1 Corinthians 13 as our chapter 13 as our kind of our series chapter. 1 Corinthians, if you don't know where 1 Corinthians is, it's more towards the end than at the beginning or the middle. There's actually two letters, 1 of Corinthians and 2 of Corinthians. Do you have it with me? Here it is, and I believe this is going to be very powerful and good for us, okay? I like this chapter, and in my plug group we talked about it. It says, when I was a child, I talked like a child, and I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. When I became a man, I put the ways of childhood behind me. When I was a child, I talked like one. I thought like one. I reasoned or I behaved like one. But when I became a man, when I became mature, I had to put those childhood ways behind me. In my pro group, I asked the girls and the guys in there, and I said, how do you know when you're not a child anymore? What age determines when you're not a child anymore? Because, you know, most of us in here would not consider or categorize ourselves as children. And it's interesting because the youngest girl in that room, which was Daisy, said, you can be 100 years old and still be a child. And she got it. She got it because childness or childlike is not about your age, but it's about the way you think, the way you talk, the way you reason, the way you behave. So I want to talk to you today about the childhood ways of men in reference to what culture says. Then I'm going to tell you what the Bible says that a true gentleman should be. So you ready for this, guys? So here it is. Society sees women, defines women as a commodity. Would you fill that in your outlines? A lot of you don't know what a commodity is. I'm going to tell you in just a minute. But listen, society and childlike men, girls, childlike men are going to treat you like a commodity. They're going to sing about you, they're going to present you, they're going to view you, and they're going to talk about you as a commodity. Now, do you guys know what a commodity is? Most of you guys don't know, so you can fill this out in your outline. A commodity is something that people find useful, something that we use but are not attached to. A commodity, and maybe we can turn some of the lines so that the PowerPoint can be seen. A commodity is something that we find useful, something that we need, but we don't become attached to it. You know what's a commodity? Your phone is a commodity. Because we have phones, but then 2 years later, a newer one comes out, and what do? We get a newer phone. Guys, you know what's a commodity? A car is a commodity. Because we like it, we use it, but we wouldn't die for our car. You know what's a commodity? Our clothes is a commodity. Because we like it, it's useful, but most of us don't go to sleep worrying. I'm like, oh man, I wonder if my shirt's okay. And childlike men see women as a commodity, and they see them as something that I use, something that I need, but they don't have value. Now, you know what society, you know what the message that we get about women in videos, in songs, in shows, in society, and a lot of our parents, we would have to admit that sometimes, especially as Hispanics, we come from this machismo culture, you know, where you don't wash dishes because you're the man of the house, and if you're the man of the house, you're going to hit her, and if you're the man of the house, she's never going to raise her voice at you. Because we see this is the message that we get about women, and you can fill this out in your outline. Take me, use me, then trade me for another one. That is the message that I see in songs. That is the message that I see in shows. That is the message that I see in magazines about women. Use me, take me, and when you're done with me, when you're tired, when the romance or the chemistry is over, just find another one. And you hear stupid stuff like, why would you take the rod to the ocean? Or why does that saying go? I mean, why would you take a fish to the ocean? You know, it's stupid because that reveals the mentality of somebody who sees women as something you use, as something that is nice to have, as something that can provide fun for us, but they're not really people. You know, I mean, a car is like, if I walked out there and my car was gone, I would be bummed. I would be mad. I would probably punch somebody. No, I'm just kidding. I wouldn't punch somebody, but I would be upset. But you know what? At the end of the day, this is the mentality I would have. It's just a car. I can buy another one. And listen, I don't know that there's a guy that has ever said that, but our actions often reveal that. She was nice. She was hot, but I'll find another one. Now, here's the thing. Here's the thing. The thing is that in the times where 1 Corinthians chapter 13 was written, women were a commodity. In the times of Jesus, women were something you used. Women were a commodity. Did you know that in those times, prostitution was legal, and not only legal, but encouraged? Now, prostitution in our times is still not fully embraced, but it's more like okay. But in those times, you were encouraged as a man to use prostitutes. In fact, in that city of Corinth, they had a temple where the goddess, there was a goddess there, and part of offering your worship, your adoration to this god, it involved sleeping with women who were priests there. In the times of the Bible, in the times of 1 Corinthians chapter 13, not only were women a commodity, not only was prostitution legal, but people could own slaves. And a lot of these slaves were women. And if you owned a slave, you could trade her, you could beat her, or you could abuse her sexually. And nobody could tell you anything because she was your slave. You could have her as a pleasure partner. You could have her for whatever things you needed. Whenever you got tired of her because she was your slave, you would just trade her in. Did you know that the Roman culture in that time didn't like women? If you were a father, you wouldn't want to have a daughter. Did you know that when a woman gave birth, if it was a baby girl, a lot of times they were thrown into the river or they were left out in the streets because nobody wanted a woman because they were nothing. They were a commodity. They were something that somebody was going to abuse, that somebody was going to use. Now, listen, so that you guys understand how bad it got in those times, because I know you think, Pastor, I know what you're going to tell us, but it's so hard to be what you're going to tell us. Listen, in those times, it was much harder than it is now. It was so bad, guys. It was so bad, the way men were treating women and the way women became a sex symbol only. It was so bad that twice in the Senate of Rome, there was 2 bills, there was 2 propositions to try to make marriage an obligation, because people didn't want to marry. They were saying, why get married to one woman when there's all these, and I can sleep with that one today, and then have that one over there, and I can buy me that one over there, and when I get tired of her and she starts sagging, I can just get a younger one. It was bad. Listen, women didn't have a voice. Women didn't have much value. Being a woman was just a notch above a step. In fact, horses meant more than women in those times. And women literally were a commodity. Women were something you used, you took, and when you got tired, you traded. And listen, it was into this world of perversion. It was in this world where women were just a commodity that the apostles, that Jesus spoke. It was in this culture where men rule, where men were the man, and nobody could tell me anything about my woman because I am the man. It was into this world that Jesus and his followers spoke. And they told us, and they told them about what God says about being a gentleman. And listen, it wasn't the popular thing. And when they heard it, and we're going to read those verses in just a minute, and I'm sure you've read these verses before, but you've never read them in the context that I'm going to present them to you. When people heard it, they thought Jesus was crazy. And they thought that his disciples were wimps. Because men took, not gave. Because men abused, not surrendered. Because men ruled, not submit. And it wasn't the popular thing. It wasn't the encouraging thing. But they did it. And listen, guys, because Jesus and the church and his disciples were treating women in the way that I'm about to show you, women were running to churches. Women were willing to go to church because in society and in their homes and in their jobs and in everything they did, they had no voice, they had no value, they were a commodity. But when they came to church, because of the principles that Jesus said, they were somebody, and they were treated as such. And that is my challenge for you today, that as we become real men and as we become Christian gentlemen, that we would create an environment where women are valued, where women can encounter God, where women feel precious, where women feel like that is the place I would rather be, and that they would be able to say, like David said, I'd rather be in your house one day than 1,000